This is Matthew Armsby from BC Technologies and Chris Downing from Milsted Langdon, who are both consultants, and I thank you for coming along and sharing your expertise with us here today. Just to maybe set the scene and give a picture of firms, Matthew, can you just tell us a little bit about your firm and the kind of work you do and the clients you do it for?
Yeah, certainly. BC Technologies are predominantly a technology company, so we provide support. We supply bandwidth to our clients. We supply hosting. We supply websites. We supply consultancy. We supply training. So we try to give all of those services to our clients to help them run their business a lot more efficiently, and yeah, get those clients in. That's the key to what we try to do.
And Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself in Milsted Langdon.
I'm a manager at Milsted Langdon. I'm a manager at Milsted Langdon Accountants for a firm of accountants predominantly based in the southwest. I head up our business intelligence team. It's a division of the business which I set up about 6 years ago. The primary aim is to provide the right information to the right people, at the right time, in the right context, because we recognise that information is key to a business's survival, and therefore trying to engage clients in a way which they better understand their business and want to work with their business more closely is a great way of actually retaining clients, winning new clients, and also just generating more fees. So we're basically trying to give information in a pretty format, a timely format, and a way in which they actually better understand it.
Thanks. Just to sort of connect the dots a little bit, I think we were talking just before the start that actually a lot of what Chris and Matthew do is very similar, but they've kind of come into the business from two different directions. So BC Technologies, Matthew's firm, actually emerged out of an accountancy firm and kind of as a separate entity. So that's one model under which you can deliver services, whereas Chris is a manager within the firm. And so that is one of those, the IT services are kind of enhancements and added value within the package offered by the firm. So they do the same thing but come at it differently. Matthew, were you around, and can you tell us a little bit about how BC Technologies emerged and why, when and why the decision was taken to set up separately?
Yeah, well, certainly BC Technology was always actually a separate entity. And Brendan, my business partner, set it up in '94, so it's 20 years now, yeah. And it was back in 2000, I think, where Bolton Colby chartered accountants based in Staines were using Brendan quite a lot for IT, and he was supporting everything back and front. It wasn't much a cloud-based back 20 years ago, but he was doing it all. And they saw that synergy. They saw the way that, in fact, a lot of the Bolton Colby clients were asking the accountants, who should we use for IT? I've got a problem here. I want to be able to move in this particular area, and they saw that a lot of clients wanted that IT expertise. So they looked at Brendan and they jumped in as a partner, so to speak. And so the partners of the accountancy firm became the partners of BC Technologies, and it all merged together. That was in 2000 when that happened. I joined just after that occurred. And there were some interesting times where the accountant's view on how business should be run wasn't quite the same as a small company like me and Brendan wanted. Yeah, I'm getting some smiles in the audience. So yeah, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get that working together. But there was synergy, and I think the synergy came out easily within sort of 6 months. We definitely saw a benefit to it.
Mm-hmm. And how about you, Chris? Were you sort of around as Milsted Langdon initially started to exploit the technology opportunity, or kind of were you somebody brought in to help drive that?
I'm basically born and bred with Milsted Langdon. I started with them when I was at college, did a couple of weeks work experience, went to university, left university and had a job with them straight away. So I've been with the firm for nearly 15 years, and in that period from startup I enjoyed using technology as well as possible. So it's getting into the software, understanding how it's used it, expanding its functionality. So early on I was doing management accounts for clients using Sage and other software, and it basically became a natural extension. It's the fact that this is a really good way of engaging clients and talking to them. So I was given the opportunity to actually create a specialist department. So I have a team of 6 at the moment, which is effectively all accountants, apart from one qualified trainer who's a Microsoft expert trainer, which we would provide training services to our clients. But effectively we're accountants which just enjoy using Excel and other software products, but at the same time just try and keep abreast of the sort of current technologies being used. So if a client's got a question, well, I want to go cloud, What do you think of zero? What do you think of cash flow? How do I sort of solve this problem in our business? I need to integrate one sales invoice system to my account system. How best do I go about this? Effectively, we are the first port of call for other people within the organisation for that sort of advice, which then just creates naturally a really good rapport with the client. They remember the advice we gave, and therefore it gives opportunities going forward in terms of selling other services.
Is it your colleagues with sort of the direct client account, not account managers, client managers and partners associated with the clients, are they the people responsible for billing the fees and selling the packages, or do you have your own kind of budget line and income you need to generate?
Yes, personally I have my own client portfolio, but also as a department we are required to maybe not hit targets, but obviously try and win new business, whether that's from the current client base, i.e. management accounting fees, or alternatively just going out there, speaking to referrers, speaking to new clients, and therefore there are being reports in terms of how to track what level of fees we can generate as a department. But quite often it's other managers and partners in the organisation saying, Chris, you could go and see my client. Can you give some sort of value-added advice to them? So really that's primarily what our aim is, yeah.
Because Matthew, in all the sessions we've had today on all the case studies, just the question comes up again and again. You know, partly how do you define these services, but how do you surface the need of the client and make them realise they need the help, and then actually how do you sell and price this stuff? I mean, is there a formula or a secret trick you can use at BT that you could share? The
only thing we did is we kept so close to the accountants. I mean, we discussed before actually about how we work differently or how we don't work differently, and we have a slightly different approach. And we used to do an awful lot of internal seminars, so we would be presenting to the accountants exactly what there is out there, what can we do for the clients that they are servicing. So we were keeping, we all know our communication is best when it's face-to-face, and it's 85%. You know, the rest of it is, you know, by word and email and text, whatever we do nowadays. But so we felt that face-to-face with the accountants was the best way to do it. And they were telling us the frustrations that their clients were coming up with. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? I mean, I think the receipt product that Xero has out at the moment would have been greatly received 15 years ago, because it was one of the biggest frustrations that people were coming up with. So if I'd had the foresight to create the product myself back then, perhaps I wouldn't be sitting here now. But yeah, so yeah, it was that communication. It was the working with the clients and going out to see them with the accountants as well, and running those seminars and showing them what we can do and what's capable.
As I say, Chris, a lot of the accountants are in earlier sessions, you know, found it difficult sometimes to expand, to get the client to realise they could had this extra added service. How do you get in front of them? I mean, is it more the management accounting offering, it gets into their lives and you come along to support that and develop it, and through that more technology work comes your way? How does the sort of your sales process work?
To be honest, every client's slightly different. There's something, a little thing which ticks inside them in terms of what they want. So the key thing is actually just to engage and empathise and discuss their business. And once you get a flavour of how their business works and what the requirements are, then the key thing is maybe just a little demonstration. So for example, they might have an issue, well, I've generated £100,000 sales this month, but where's the source of income? But if you just get access to their data, be able to export it in a spreadsheet, apply a little pivot table to it, and then understand what they've sold, where they've sold it, where their profit margins are. If you can demonstrate your skill, then it naturally progresses into other work and discussions about how we could work with them.
Okay, we've got a question at the back here from Mr. James. It's a regular questioner, so get ready, boys. It's always stimulating, so thanks.
Over the last few decades, we've gone basically from everything done on paper to a virtually paperless office. And with the advent of the cloud, we're going even further. How far can we actually take it with accountancy? Is there a limit to what IT can do for us, or are we sort of reaching that limit now?
I don't think there's a limit. I often think about my 7-year-old and his approach to the world. And his approach to the world is that he knows there's an Amazon. He knows that he can have a web page, and he knows that 20,000 people will be looking at that web page as soon as we get it up there. Those entrepreneurs that are bringing their business in and looking for an accountant know that there's a very easy way to get online. There's a very easy way to get all of their data online. And we're saying, no, I don't think there's a limit. I think we can just keep on going. And we, as accountants, have got to keep up with that as well. And I think that's the key task. It's going to keep going. I couldn't have, some of the stuff that's, you know, even we'd take the receipt bank from zero at the moment, 15 years ago, we'd never even thought that that could be possible. A lot of us may have been taking photographs of our receipts and then storing them and dealing with them later. But if that would never have been thinkable as a practice or a product that could be working in such the way that it is with the Xero system, it is good. So no, I don't see that there's a limit. We will come up with new technologies. We will come up with new ways of doing it. Big data is such a big thing, and Chris will know all about big data and how you can make big data. You can extract so much information out of the data that we've got. Not just your KPIs and your results and all the sort of reports that we've been using for 15 odd years, but you can get so much more out of the data that we're collecting. And if it's all in the cloud in one little place, it makes it easier for us to get the data out that you need. No, there's no limit.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, are you doing anything yourself to maybe push the envelope, you know, get into new areas and do new things that previously the profession possibly couldn't, or other firms may not be able to do?
Well, it's coming down to understanding what the client requires. And yes, the cloud is an interesting environment because suddenly the data is no longer locally to their machines. It's a case of how they're going to be working with it. So we're sort of developing sort of APIs, a way of actually extracting that data from the cloud-based softwares to actually drop into Excel and other reporting packages. We also see that the fact that though the reporting's key, is understanding what you can do with that data, because our main aim is to try and get the clients to get excited about their business. And sometimes one of the barriers is their lack of knowledge of how to use the software. So whether that's training from the Sage or the Xero or the cash flow, but also training how you use some Microsoft packages or the Google Doc packages. So I think training is the key thing for going forward in terms of clients and how they're going to embrace new software and technologies. It's even little things like your iPad mini. That wasn't around a couple of years ago, and the iPad only came around in 2009. So what's the new technology going forward? What's the new piece of hardware? And clients still don't understand how you can make best use of those devices. So there's always going to be an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, as I say, this is the first time I've actually remembered my questions quite well without forgetting. So, okay, Matthew, maybe we'll start with you. Although I guess you mentioned, I mean, may have preempted this, but what's the service line that's probably had the biggest effect on your clients and helped improve their lives, but your revenues as well? I mean, are those two the same things? The thing that generates value for clients generates the most value for you as well? Not
necessarily, no. I think if we went back sort of 10 years ago, you'd be looking at connectivity was the biggest thing. If you can get some decent pipes in and decent connectivity for the clients, they suddenly realised the capability that they had in the cloud. And that's still an important thing, because it's surprising that most of the country, or a lot of the country, just cannot get broadband above sort of 5 meg. It's ridiculous. And in the home environment, you can have the 40, 100 meg, and in a business down the road, you still can't. So there's still a lot of way to go there, and we work with partners to try and get, ISP partners, to try and get that connectivity in the right place at the right time.
So the network infrastructure is your big fee earner?
It's one of the big fee earners, because then they can then move themselves into the cloud. And the cloud is getting there. We all know it's getting there. Don't think it's quite there yet, 100%. There's no cloud package out there, I think, at the moment, which is doing everything. It's not ticking all the boxes. But, you know, we are getting there. And I think the confidence is building. We won't talk about security too much, but, you know, once we get over the security barrier, you can do an awful lot more with the cloud. And I think clients are beginning to get more confident.
Although we'll come to your, Chris, but what about security? I mean, is security consultancy? I mean, there's a good specialist lucrative market there. Is that something you get into, or you leave it to it?
We do audits, and I love the audits. Being a techie guru and a techie man, I just love the idea of trying to hack into your systems. It just fills me with glee. So yes, we sort of do that, and we check the client's security and making sure that they are doing what they should be doing. The biggest security threat is, unfortunately, all of you, and I think most practitioners will understand that we are our weakest link. And that's the biggest one, and that comes back to training, as Chris has mentioned. We can get that training in, explain to people what they're doing when they're using their Dropbox, explain to people what they're doing when they're using their OneDrive. Where's that data? Are you concerned? Could someone be hacking into it? It's those sort of things. So it's all about education and training.
So Chris, in Milsted Langdon, some more traditional accountancy firm, do you extend to infrastructure project, upgrading the networks within client businesses, and maybe doing security audits? Do you get into real nuts and bolts stuff as well?
We advise on it and actually identify the opportunities, because Milsted Langdon actually has an IT division, so it's a good opportunity for where the accountant's recommending to the client that they need to do X, Y and Z, look at the disaster recovery, become hosted, look at maybe the infrastructure and the pipes and size of the pipes and the connectivity. So if the accountant's recommending that sort of new income service or infrastructure, to get the IT company involved is so much easier, because really your clients trust you and trust your advice, and therefore what you say is a really good opportunity to generate new income.
And again, I'll maybe ask the question in two parts. What do you think is the service you offer that has the biggest impact on clients' lives and businesses and brings about the biggest improvement?
Personally, it's not just the management reporting in terms of the pretty pictures and the real-time information. It's spending time with the client and discussing their business with them. It's basically extending the accountant's role from just the compliance to the advisory. So more on my personal portfolio and other portfolios is that you might have a compliance fee of £2,000 per annum, but quite often the actual fee you're getting from the client could be 10, 12, I even have one which is £30,000 a year, because really the client just wants to meet you on a regular basis and have you available for your advice. So really it's actually creating the consultancy value rather than the compliance value, because we all recognise with Xero saying that in a couple of years' time they'll be able to do the statutory accounts online, where is the value which the accountant can provide? Is it the actual accounts, or is it the advice in terms of the taxation, the completeness of the records, etc.?
And what's the one that brings you in the most fees? What sort of element of the service you provide?
We've created a couple of Excel-based products which integrate with Sage, primarily because most of our client base use Sage, and therefore we have an Excel model which will effectively interrogate all the audit trail data, and it creates, the way it's set up, you can actually identify where there might be potential VAT errors or areas where there are mispostings, and I could pretty much guarantee every time I meet a client and connect this spreadsheet up to their Sage data, I find VAT which they haven't claimed yet. It's just because it can pick out all those little anomalies or the problems. And basically it's that lovely light bulb effect where the client is actually, it's the shock and awe in terms of able to actually show them information which they've never seen before.
Excellent. Now you talked earlier about the training opportunity. Where does that come? Is it in terms of impact on the client, improvement in the client and fees? Is that a mid-level element of your services, or is that really quite high up, one of the more high priority?
At the moment it's mid-level, but I'd like to promote it even further. I think one of the barriers is actually just trying to get the owner managers, the people actually signing the checks, to recognise the value in training. Because you think about the effort which your clients are spending on software, or the energies which, let's say, the finance department is spending on processing invoices. If only they knew how to use the software properly. How much sort of data rekeying are they doing in Excel? And also, it's not just the actual process and the efficiencies they can gain from using the software properly. It's also the intangible value of the employees suddenly realising that the employer values them. i.e. if they're prepared to invest a little bit of time and energy into training, the employees are going to be more motivated.
How do you generally get them to make that decision and actually accept that they may benefit from tech training?
To be honest, it's really when I get in front of the client and I'm talking about other matters about the business and really identify opportunities. Are you aware you can do this with Sage? Can you do this with Excel? Do you know how you can use a Dropbox? Basically, you have to give a little to get something back. So you need to demonstrate what you can really do with Excel and Microsoft and Outlook and sharing calendars. And once they realise, actually, the owner manager's knowledge base is weak, they most really, well, what value can our employees gain from it? So really, it's a demonstration in terms of what an improved skill set can actually offer to the business.
So Matthew, how significant is the training opportunity for BC Technologies, and how do you go about it?
Yeah, very important. I think every time we are trying to implement something, be it a new software package or trying to get data out of the system, training is very important. Now, training's always been, up until sort of probably the last few months, it's been the first thing to be cut from budgets, and we've been finding that has been the case for a good 5 to 10 years. But it's beginning to come back. There's a resurgence in training because we have these new software packages out now, and yes, they understand. They need to know how it works. They need to understand how the cloud works. They need to understand how that spreadsheet is going to make such a difference to the way that they can look at their reporting. Reporting is such an interesting thing, isn't it? And we could spend a whole hour talking about reporting.
If not more.
If not
Well,
more.
we're going to have about 15 minutes
Yeah,
at least. That's the next question.
So the next question, definitely. But it's all about training them in how they can get their data out using the correct reporting structure. Throw a third of your reporting away is the first thing we normally say. And we train people how to then look at what their reporting structure is doing. What are those reports actually doing? What is someone actually doing with those reports? Is it a waste of time? If so, chuck it away. Get a third out the window. Modify another third and keep the other third, which may have been working for the last 15 years, but actually they're still valid. They're KPIs that we all need to understand and know. So training and everything.
Okay, it's reporting time. If there are any questions, do join in. But start with you, Chris. You said it first. I guess, how do you do you do the chuck out a third method? Is that part of your?
It is effectively.
approach?
You need to lose some time with the client to actually understand what they do and what they want from their reports. And quite often they're just producing reports because they're the same reports they produced 6 years ago. The business has changed. The data has changed. The employees' understanding has changed. And the ability to interrogate data instantaneously with a good pivot table and a few dynamic charts is fantastic. Therefore, as long as you provide the skill sets to the owner managers, they can start to feed themselves the KPIs, the business intelligence, the knowledge of the business themselves. So, reporting is key, but also you need to be fluid and dynamic in what you would require. And the reports you did last month maybe showed a certain element of the business. You've learned from it. You've moved on. You made a decision. Let's report something else. The business is dynamic, so you need to keep the reporting changing.
What steps do you go through to sort of scope those reporting needs? How do you actually get them to define and say this is what I want to see, and these are the numbers I need to see in front of me, and this is how I want to see them at? What process do you go through to do that?
We have some templates in terms of some demo data and what you can do in terms of the reports. Now, quite often, clients aren't actually using the software to its best capabilities. They're not capturing all of the information they should do. So you go through that learning curve in terms of if you maybe captured what you're selling with the sales invoice, so it's creating the right type of sales invoice, you can then extract new information from the reports. So it's a case of demonstrating what they can currently do with their accounting system or their CRM system, and then inform them, well, what can you add to it to actually improve the quality of the data?
And you were saying there's things you can get out, or here's some missing VAT you never knew.
Yeah, of course, yes.
So Matthew, Chris has got the advantage that he can get in there because his firm is helping clarify and improve management reporting in the clients, and that's what the clients look to them for. How do you end up getting involved in reporting projects, and how do you scope what they want and then go about delivering, fitting those needs?
Well, it's always been our approach to get that relationship going with our clients, and it's all about relationship, and it's not so much about those products. And it's during that relationship where you're spending that time with the director, with the partners of those firms, and you're getting to an understanding about where they want their business to be in 3 to 5 years' time. You'll be amazed at how many people don't have a 3-year plan, don't have a 5-year plan. They're just rolling on every single year doing the same old thing. And we spend that time and we pose those questions, and we do have a look at the reporting. It's interesting about the reporting. From a financial perspective, a lot of our client base actually only have financial reports. They don't look at producing non-financial reports, i.e. the number of widgets you may have sold if it's a project.
New customers engaged. What customers are falling off?
Exactly.
When was the last time someone bought something from you?
Exactly.
It's that sort of patterns you need to generate in
Yeah.
terms of...
And what's in the pipeline?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the other really big thing that a lot of clients don't suddenly realise. And in fact, if they had a dashboard that tells you what's going on and what's coming up next month, it makes a really big insurgence into the way that people can work. The Americans have taken it a bit too far, where I understand there's a thing called a status board. I don't know if you've seen this, where the status board is in the office itself. Everybody can see this status board, and it's a big smiley face if the algorithms have correctly looked at the KPIs and everything's going well. It's a sad face if the partners have applied a certain algorithm for that day.
Funny you should say that. I've had to do that this week. A client's got, let's say, they've got the hub, the finance department, where they've got the operations, and they've got two 42-inch plasma screens on the wall. So effectively, we've got two spreadsheets, all colour-coded, with a live link to Sage, which are refreshed automatically every 5 minutes, even though the data's not changing every 5 minutes, basically demonstrating where the business is doing, i.e. sales volume, data collection, WIP, cash collected. So therefore, the business has been separated into coloured teams. So you imagine you've got graphs of different colours, and therefore you've got this competitive nature within the business. It's quite exciting, really. The client is young and energetic, and if that's what he wants, I'll deliver it for him. And actually, he's getting results from actually providing that sort of reporting to his employees.
I can't see a lot of our clients taking it on, but yeah, definitely it is out there.
Chris has sort of mentioned Excel a few times and Sage, and I think your sort of default package is to connect those two together.
Primarily because most of our clients are using that, so that's the de facto. Yeah.
So when you've chucked out the rubbish reports, got them to scope those possibly non-financial measures, what kind of team engagement do you go in with, and what tools do you do to equip your client firms with the new setup?
Well, the new setup, I mean, again, it is all about reporting, and that report pack that we may have been used to for such a long time, it is gone. And it is all about just feeding the information all the time. The KPIs on the screen without the smiley face is a great idea, and it gets involvement, it gets engagement with your team. And I think we find that an awful lot. The partners are saying, look, if we can get our team to understand where the business is going, where we are making some fee changes, where we're making the most fees in certain things, and they get involved.
And what tools do you prefer to deliver those kind of?
It does depend. We're not stuck to a particular tool. So it does depend upon your cloud platform, whatever you've chosen. We could quite easily interface a SharePoint platform, so there'll be a portal that will tap into your Iris, tap into your Sage, tap into whatever you've got, and then bring it up. So we will use a SharePoint front-end portal, but it will sort of tap into whatever you need there to be. Although a lot of your offerings will have a portal already, so you make the most. And surprisingly, you may not be using all of the options that are available to you at the moment.
Okay, we have a question over here. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No problem. It's actually on the same theme. I'd be interested to hear your experiences, any insight you have on this sort of KPIs and operational information. I think there's a great opportunity for accountants to get into point of sale systems, and so many companies now going online, integrating their systems at the front desk base of the point of sale system, which is also then integrated into their online system with Shopify and Vend, and integrating that then back into something like Xero. It strikes me that's an area where accountants really should start going into, because essentially it all translates into cash, which is back in the accountant's game. I'm wondering, is there an opportunity, or have you seen any insight working with some of your customers getting into that space?
Well, yes, because quite often the clients are saying, I've got Xero, but I want to have this add-on. But you need to have an understanding what add-ons are actually available. So, and therefore it comes down to the consultancy side of reviewing, doing the beauty parade of the various products available. And what's brilliant is really in the last 6 months or so, the number of new online add-ons to other bits of software is great. Whether that's Xero or Cashflow or Sage, the fact that you can integrate all these products, it's quite interesting. And also the cost of these products, some of them free, some of them based on user ability and volume. So it's a case of going through, the client isn't informed enough to actually make the decision themselves, but they want your guidance in terms of what is the best product. So yes, there's a big opportunity there, but the trouble is if you don't act now and do a little bit of reading and research and play, you might still miss the boat.
Matthew, anything to?
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, it is going to take a long time, I think, as well. I mean, Xero is a great product, and I think there are a lot of companies that have got to catch up with a lot of things that are being done there. We're seeing what do we do? Let's think about what we've got with our iPads. We've got all our tablets. We're all working on apps. And we can see a trend where, in fact, it won't be just one product you're logging into. It's going to be the fact that your auditors will be using an app. And you only need to buy 10 of these because you've only got 10 auditors. They'll be logging into it and using another app when they're using their tax, because you've only got 5 tax consultants. So they buy 5 apps. So we're seeing a lot of app usage coming in. You've got to have that data in the centre, and that's the key to the understanding of the database. And if we can get all of those apps to look at that central data, your big data, but use it in a particular way and just hone in on the task that's in hand, that's key.
I mean, I'd like to amplify that a little bit as well. You know, when you're talking about the point of sale and the website and things, I've had questions on both sides of the Atlantic from Accounting Web about somebody wanting to connect their web store to stock, so have an e-commerce stock management and evaluation system. So just making, you know, that to me, in fact, to go back to John's question at the back, is that sort of possibly the, you know, a lot of the apps have been created. You know, there will be more, but they will grow sort of incrementally. But as they grow incrementally, they can all be rigged up and connected and hooked together in just infinite ways. So even without the universe expanding that much, the possibilities are just continue to multiply. You know, they're kind of squared, or you're the mathematicians. You know, is that right, or is it cubed? So thanks. Good question there. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Right, let's move on to you. Yep. And if you could stand up. Yes, you've been slumping there. You know, let's get energized here.
Okay, I'll stand correctly. You mentioned apps. Now, with the apps, there's elements of security to be concerned about. Whose responsibility is it, really?
Everything we're doing now, everything that Microsoft is doing, they are encrypting everything. There's a thing called an SSL certificate. So as long as we have that security built in, so if you're doing something on your app, what is normally happening is it's encrypted before it gets sent out. And then it's received at the other end, decrypted, and then used. So as long as the security is in place, and I agree with you, and we mentioned this in our last session, it's all about security. And we've got this little concern about security, have we not? We're just not sure about cloud, and we're not sure about security. It's another session. Perhaps we need to do another seminar completely on... Oh, we've run out of time.
Next year.
Next year.
If it's on the feedback, we'll
Absolutely,
be doing.
yeah.
We'll invite you specially.
So yes, there is to be concern, and you've got to trust in the app. You've got to trust in the security that's there.
It is down to those people that approach you about the apps as well. You know, how much you trust them, because you get stuff in. How far do you go? Who can you go and talk to?
We have our trusted developers, and yeah, we've hit the nail on the head there. We work with a team, and they're exemplary, and they will create a database for any client, and it is 100% secure. I'm very happy with that. I've never actually tested their security. Now, that's something I will organise straight away, because I'll enjoy doing that. But yeah, it's trusted. It's trusted. So trusted advisors on that one.
How do the two? We're getting near the end, so again, if you have any questions, it's getting down to the wire. But we've talked about the development apps. You know, security is always a moving target, because as the applications change and the platforms change, security risks change. How do the two of you, Chris, keep up with technology trends? And you know, you're there delivering client services and things, and the stuff is changing on a weekly basis. So how do you keep? And can you pass on any useful pointers or sites or resources?
It's doing a little bit of web surfing, looking at the right sort of feeds, the right blogs. So from an Excel point of view, and using Microsoft, there are certain writers of how to use Excel better. So they're not maybe directly linked to the accounting profession, but you pick up an idea. Oh, that'd be quite useful. Can I apply that to my clients? So really, you do need to do reading online and just have a flavour of what's going on. And okay, we all hate, let's say, the email marketing you get in your inbox, and you might sort of have auto delete and auto rule, but they are quite useful, because especially the ones where you get from IT companies, are you aware of this latest innovation? it's worthwhile just having a little read. Okay, they might be trying to sell you something, but just having an awareness and understanding, which then just gives you a little bit of knowledge. Next time your client asks you the question, you say, yeah, I might sort of remember that. I have an idea, an inkling what that's all about.
Okay. Matthew, how
Yeah,
do
I'd
you
agree
come
with
up?
that. There are, we could mention quite a few. Tech Target as an example. There's BizTech Report are very, very good, and there's always new things that are coming out. And I do get a lot of emails. Having not looked at my email for the last hour and a half, I'm guessing there'll be about 20 in there that are sort of, they could be from sales companies, they'll be from Tech Target, and they're great ideas. Scan down. They're very, very good at getting the name right to get your interest, and I think they've choose the right company to go for in terms of getting their emails, and they will guide you down. The white papers are very boring and very interesting sometimes, but you've got to read them because they may actually hit exactly your problem and give you the solutions as well.
During our kind of exchanges, setting up the questions and the format and things, you mentioned, I think, something like a current trend monitor. Is that your top secret professional development tool?
I like to. I'm on a lot of Twitter feeds, and I'll keep an eye on things. So I do like to have a look at what the trend is. Twitter's great in that respect because if you keep an eye on some very, very good tech gurus and the guys at the top there that know what's happening, you can get an idea, a bit of insight. And if we can get insight into what's going on, we all know that's so powerful in the way that we can gear our business. So it's really just looking at what everybody else is talking about. So you look
at kind of current Twitter tech trends?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that do you set that up, or someone maintains a kind of a
No,
a
you just get the feeds really. You choose the feeds that you want. You choose the people. It takes a bit of time, to be honest, to learn that actually, yeah, he's okay. He's not just telling me that his tea's ready. What's that about? So he's.
So you just filter your Twitter feed into.
Yeah.
Kevin, is that kind of thing you do as well? Same sort of. We have a mole from 2020 or BBS Computing. I should have had you up here as well. We got a question. Brilliant. This might be the last one.
You talk about keeping up to date and with technology changing. Got any tips for maybe people in the firm who are basically not into IT and a bit old-fashioned, that sort of thing? How to get them more engaged into IT?
You're very quiet, Chris. Unfortunately, that's where the information is, would be my response. We don't get newsletters anymore. We actually send out newsletters, physical newsletters, but everything is online. Everything is by email. Everything is coming in our iPads. Everything is coming on our smartphones. So if you want to know that information, that's where it is. You've got to get tech savvy. You've got no choice. And I'd be very hard about that.
I mean, Chris, do you ever offer advice, apart from in this setting, to other practitioners? I mean, are any other practices, your clients, that you're training businesses how to mine their information and do that, do their own fishing for information? Do you ever kind of assist or aid other practices?
I was yesterday. I spent a day with another accountancy firm, and I actually see them as quite an innovative firm in their own right. They're looking at other income streams. They're very proactive. They have a very modern feel. But I was gobsmacked when she asked, could you let me know how we can all share calendars? And I'm just thinking, wow. Because they're using, or they continue to use, quite an old piece of software to understand where people are, their diary events, etc. And it's just the basic thing of their staff enabling permissions on their calendars so other users can see what they're doing. And so I basically demonstrate, well, this is what I have. I have shared calendars on my Outlook. I group them by, let's say, partners, managers, by departments. So if I pick up the phone or someone wants to understand where someone is, I can quickly go into the department. I can create group schedules. But it always fascinates me. People can always learn something new. So yeah, so I do go and see other accounting firms, or give them a bit of advice in terms of, or steering in terms of how they could better use technology, or just open their eyes in terms of what's available.
Yeah.
And Matthew, I mean, BC Technologies started as a partner consultancy to an accountancy firm. Have you grown other, is that a business model for you, of partnering with accountancy firms and so they may not have your skills, but they trust you to deliver? How often is
Absolutely, and accountancy firms and professional services firms will outsource to us, and we will look after their cloud. If you look at the cost of setting up IT within your business. If I think about the resources that we have a couple of data center spaces. We have got, I don't know how many servers we've got in the cloud, but that's quite a massive expense to set up. So partnering with someone, and that's what we try to do with our professional services, we will quite easily host all of their applications, their services, their
hold their
portals.
hands and help them into some application and business reporting areas?
Exactly, every step of the way,
Okay.
and we'll bring in the partners that are experts in that area.
So I think the lesson is, I mean, you know, there's a lot of research, a lot of technical knowledge, and like Paula Talon's tax lecture, I mean, you do have to know your stuff to deliver, you know, actually offer it to clients. But I think, you know, if you have your trusted suppliers and partners, even if you don't have the capability now, you know, you can. There are ways of catering for the client need, even if you don't necessarily deliver it yourself. So again, it's finding your route into the advisory thing. You know, we've seen 2 examples here this afternoon. I hope it's kind of inspired all of you here to maybe develop. You know, if technology is going to be your direction, I hope they've given you some concrete ideas and inspiration. And I'd like to thank Chris Downing and Matthew Armsby for a really interesting session. Thanks.